Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Fab. I'm joined by Roger, joined by Nacc, and we got a very, 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 very special guest on the episode today. We have Eli from Talkin Fantasy Football. Talkin Fantasy Football is another fantasy football podcast that you can find them on TikTok and on YouTube. Their handle is at Talkin FFB. That's TALKIN FFB. Eli, we're very excited to have you on the show today. On this wonderful episode that we have right now, we're going to be previewing the NFC South conference. We've already done the AFC East, AFC North, NFC East, NFC North, as well as the AFC South last week. So please take a look at those episodes right after you're done listening to this one, because this one's going to be a doozy, I can tell you that much. And as always, before we get rolling, please follow, like, subscribe to all of our social media content that we have out there. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. We interact with our fans all the time, pretty much. So, if you're out there, you want to ask us some questions for the upcoming fantasy football season, either ask us or ask Eli, because you know what, his content is fire. Kudos to you, my friend. Like your stuff is really, really good. So either one of us, come to us first, but then go to Eli after. But make sure, you hit all the bases there. So just quickly, guys, this episode we're going to be going through a little breakdown of every single team in the division. We're going to go through quickly some additions and fancy relevant draft picks, some burning questions and key stats for each roster. We're going to go through each position group, break out some prospects, as well as potential sleepers, busts, and maybe some bold predictions for 2025. If we have enough time. I don't know if we have enough time. I don't know if we're going to have enough time. We're going to see. So let's get the ball rolling. Let's start off right out of the gates with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year in 2024, they finished 10-7. They were the only team in the division to make the playoffs. They had a top 5 offense despite having an offensive coordinator turnover, which happened again this year because Liam Cohen is now with Nacc. Who are they with?
Duval.
There it is. So now they're actually on their third OC in 3 seasons. Their current offensive coordinator is Josh Gizzard. What a last name, eh? Gizzard. My God. He was actually the passing game coordinator for them in 2024. So there's a little bit of a continuity that continues from last year into this year. Ranked 3rd in total offense, 4th in scoring, and obviously, everyone's favorite rookie from last season, Bucky Irving, probably won a lot of fantasy championships. But there's still some other things that happened this year too that we think are super noteworthy. Like most importantly, we have the draft pick of one of my favorite picks this year was a wide receiver, Emeka Egbuka, who already in camp right now was looking like this. He's coming as advertised pretty much. And all their key offensive starters are basically expected to return, obviously, apart from some of the injuries, notably Chris Godwin, who we'll get into later. But you know what? Obviously, right off the bat, one of the questions that we have is really, can the Bucs survive another offensive coordinator change without regression? I think yes, because they've already done it so much. And then we're going to talk about the reason why I think so is because of Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield right now he's going as quarterback 7 at ADP. He also has the most passing touchdowns since 2023. Wonderful stat.
And is Fab's high school sweetheart.
He is. Hey, man, listen, I'll be the first one to say it. When Baker Mayfield was drafted into the NFL, he was not my favorite player. Maybe because he went to Cleveland, but like all the stuff that came with him, I really wasn't a fan. And I guess he didn't have the stats and all that stuff to back it up. But I guess going to Carolina and then a little bit with the Rams humbled him. And now you can see what he's doing in Tampa Bay. It's like, good for you, man. Like he's killing it. And even within the locker room, like he's very much the guy, the leader in the locker room. So I give full props to Baker. But I guess from a fantasy football standpoint, and Eli, we're going to kick it off with you right now. How do you feel about Baker Mayfield going into 2025? Does he give you QB1 value? Right now is QB7. Is that where he should be going with as far as a ranking is concerned?
I personally think it's a little too high. Just looking at his overall stats from out his career, he had I believe it was 51% increase in touchdowns from his career average to 41 last season. So I'm just wondering if that's just like an outlier season for him. Is he going to be able to produce at that high of a level without Liam Cohen calling the plays. You mentioned Josh Grizzard. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I've been pronouncing it Grizzard, but
You're
it could be
probably right.
Grizzard.
Yours is probably right. I'm known for mispronouncing everything on this podcast.
I think Fab said Jizzard.
Did I said Grizzard? Okay, Grizzard. Let's go with Grizzard. You're saying Eli. I'm sorry.
However you pronounce it. I just have my questions with him. I mean, I know he was with the team previously as the passing game coordinator, but he's never called plays in the NFL. And so I'm just wondering how that whole transition is going to happen, and whether last season really was just an outlier season for Baker Mayfield. They also don't have Tristan Wirfs to start the year as he's recovering from his knee injury. So just a bit of uncertainty there on that offensive line and just overall with the play caller.
Those are great stats. I really like that. 50% over his career average in touchdowns, which, yeah, I guess you could kind of see it. I still think he's top 10 worthy. Maybe 7 could be a little too high, but I mean, if the trend continues, then you're kind of laughing in that top 10 trajectory. But I think you made me think about it a little bit more with those stats, and that would have been my point as well as the Tristan Wirfs that he's not going to be there to start the year, which is going to be a bit tough as well.
I feel
Roger,
like
you want to push back a bit.
No, it's like if I look at where he's nestled into as QB7, like he's right after Mahomes at 6. He's before Bo Nix. Kyler Murray's 9, which I don't understand. Dak Prescott's moving up quite a bit, which I think everyone is kind of feeling the Dak Prescott love with the George Pickens addition. It feels like he's well placed, but like Eli, I have some reservations. Like it's also the 20 turnovers last year. He gave like 16 interceptions is a lot, right? Like, and I feel like he got lucky with some of them where there could have been more. He had hit four games with 4+ TDs. So that was against the Commanders, Saints, Chargers, and Panthers. How repeatable is he going to have 4 games with 4+ TDs? And if you look at the playoff rematch against the Commanders, he was very average, right? So he looked great against the Commanders early in the year, and then when they saw them again, he did not look good at all. So, and just finally, looking at some like older veteran QBs like a Matt Hasselbeck, Jake Delhomme, Matt Schaub, and even Alex Smith, when they finished in the top 10 in fantasy one year, the next year, some of them finished, whether it was 25th, 13th. Alex Smith finished 31st the year after he had a 4th place fantasy finish. So, and those guys they were in their 8th or 9th season. So I think to Eli's point, looks like a big outlier for me, and I find it a bit risky with where he's placed personally.
So the year prior to this one, he actually finished as QB10. So QB7 might be a little bit high, but I think we're still talking about a QB1 overall, a top 10, top 12 guy. So I don't disagree completely, but I would still pump the brakes in my opinion, just to say that is 41 an outlier? Most likely it is. But I think, you can expect QB1 numbers on a week-to-week basis with Baker Mayfield. Maybe he's not going in the spot that you expect him to, but Raj, to your point, like, would you rather have Bo Nix over Baker Mayfield as your QB1?
He offers the rushing upside. I have reservations about Bo Nix too, personally.
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely like the Bo Nixes, the Kyler Murrays, the Dak Prescotts. I think only
I agree.
Dak is the guy that was that.
I would go Fields over him. Maybe even like Justin Herbert.
See, Justin Herbert, I mean, we're not going to talk too much about the Chargers, but in the last few days, man, I feel like the Chargers have not been very lucky with injuries and a bunch of other stuff that gives me a little bit more pause.
Yeah, they just lost Rashawn Slater.
Yes.
For the year. That was a big loss.
Yeah.
Their roster construction is just weird, I find.
But we're going to move on. So kind of how we feel about Baker Mayfield. We're going to move on to a player that screams good roster construction, especially the running backs over here. We got Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. Nacc, I don't think we have to talk too much about how much you absolutely adore Bucky Irving, currently going as RB8. I think for you, that's a little bit too low, right?
Yeah, and we saw what he did last year and how high he finished last year without even starting the year as the starter. They had Rachaad White penciled in there, and then they finally, I think Rachaad White had an injury, and then kind of gave him the full workload down the stretch, and he was dominant, downright dominant. Look, we know there's a different coordinator. We know he hasn't called plays, but I feel like you see a star there. You're not just going to forget to give him the ball and to kind of give it to him, often. This is a guy we've been talking about a lot, and I still feel he can push for those top 5 numbers in his second season, top 5 in RB. I like what I see. He looks amazing in camp as well, and I think we're in for a huge season of Bucky Irving.
So, top 5. Name me the guys that you would take before him.
Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley. That's it.
Really?
CMC, no. Achan, no. Genty, no.
God, Achan is so overvalued.
Yeah, Achan is
maybe Derrick Henry. Maybe Derrick Henry. But after that, like
Eli, what say you?
Yeah, I think he's going about where I would have him. I think he probably finishes around RB8, like the lower end running back ones. The thing that I just question is if he can sustain his efficiency. He had 5.42 yards per carry, 4th in the NFL, on only a 49% opportunity share. It kind of reminds me of Devon Achan's situation, where Achan was highly efficient his rookie year, and then isn't as efficient his sophomore year, but made up for it in PPR formats because of how involved he was in the passing game. But then with Rachaad White there, how much is Bucky really going to be involved in the passing game? So I think he's an electric player. I think he's a great player, the best running back that the Bucs have. It's just how much of the opportunity share is he going to get?
I think he might even have more of an opportunity share this year than last year. I get your point.
I believe so too.
Yeah, the Devon Achan comp is good. I just want to, in that sophomore year that Achan did slump a little bit, I think that also had to do with Tua being injured for the majority of that season. And we all know how well Achan does when Tua does play.
It was like a 10-point difference in points per game.
It's stark. It's ridiculous. And so I think that has to do with it as well. But no, but your point is very well taken. But RB8 for me, Bucky Irving, it's a good spot. Nacc, I'm going to push back a little bit just because I don't know if I see the same upside as you do. And again, we talk about how quarterbacks have sophomore slumps. Like I don't see why running backs would necessarily be removed from that exception. And as I'm saying that, like the only guy that I would probably consider before Bucky is like a Derrick Henry, and if I want to play it super safe, like Josh Jacobs, but Bucky is for me definitely a top 10, like knocking on the door for top 5.
The talent is there. I think Nacc's perception is fair because the talent is so good. I think he's ranked below those guys because he still has some competition. Nacc, you were saying Rachaad White, I think he's day-to-day, but he had 6 receiving touchdowns last year, and Bowles loves him in pass protection. And I feel Todd Bowles is one of those coaches that he's old school. He wants the guy. He still wants to play the guy that's really good in pass pro. He really wants to play the guy who's trusted. And we're forgetting a guy that's also in that backfield, and Sean Tucker, who Bowles during preseason and camp said he had a really good game, and he told the offensive staff, we need to get this guy the ball as well. If we recall, when Irving needed to be spelled against the Saints, Tucker had 14 carries for 136 yards. He looked absolutely fantastic, and he's a really talented player out of Syracuse. So I think they're going to factor in all those 3 backs in there.
Yeah, I like that Sean Tucker pool. I had some notes written down on him. I think that, he's a efficient ball carrier, had 6.1 yards per carry in limited opportunities. You mentioned that game against New Orleans in week 6, 34 fantasy points in PPR leagues, almost 200 total yards that game. He's somebody that it should be getting involved. He is talented enough. So it's a crowded backfield, but I think Bucky Irving is the best one in that backfield.
I remember, guys. We had like a lot of posts about Sean Tucker after that game.
We did.
Like our socials were going crazy because like this seems like fool's gold, and you didn't really see him afterwards, but the talent was definitely there.
Yeah, and definitely a running back room to monitor. But yeah, definitely Bucky Irving's going to be the guy to have in there. Now we're going to go to the wide receivers, maybe a little bit more murky, I feel like. So there's, Father Time there, Mike Evans, who's just, the red zone monster that he is. Chris Godwin, who's coming off a broken ankle. I don't think he's going to be ready to start the season. And even if he starts in like week 2, I think there's a ramp up period. So he's currently going as wide receiver 29. The most interesting one, in my opinion, is Emeka Egbuka, Roger, your namesake over there, going as wide receiver 51. And then we got Jalen McMillan, who, finished 2024 really, really well, coming in relief when there was some injuries, especially to Chris Godwin. So it's a nice wide receiver room, if you think about it, right? So out of those 4 guys, though, I mean, are there any ones that you're necessarily targeting, Roger?
I have to talk about Emeka Egbuka.
Mm-hmm.
Just camp, preseason.
Yeah,
some of the quotes from some of the players, Mike Evans saying he's a true professional. Josh Grizzard was saying he has super high praise for him. Baker Mayfield called him an absolute stud. And if you go back and look at his numbers at OSU that has had wide receivers like Garrett Wilson, Michael Thomas, JSN, Terry McLaurin, Chris Carter, he is the all-time reception leader at OSU. He has the most receiving yards at OSU as well. And if you look at his profile, he's not just a slot guy. He could play inside, he could play outside, he could go yak, true professional. I think he's gonna not be WR1, but he's gonna flirt with. He's gonna be, in my opinion, the second best wide receiver on that team, especially considering Chris Godwin is gonna be injured. So it's for me, Egbuka would be the nice value pick. I think Evans is always solid, but there's always that like, when is it gonna fall off for Mike Evans?
I agree. He's at 51 is insane value. I feel like you're talking around the likes of Ayuk and Christian Kirk and Coleman and Tillman, even like Darnell Mooney going ahead of him. So he's just right behind. Like these guys we're talking about are guys that are not going to put up solid fantasy numbers, right? They may be plug and play at times, and man, from what I've been seeing at camp too, it's really impressive. This was my favorite wide receiver coming out of the draft.
Yeah.
I was
Same.
actually hoping that Pittsburgh was going to take him, but really, really loved the kid, and I think he's going to have, like Bab said, with Chris Godwin slated to miss at least the beginning of the season and not be at 100% for a few weeks. This is his time to kind of take the bull by the horns and like grab that wide receiver 2 spot on the team, and I think the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of what you guys just said. I think the Godwin injury really opens the door for him to really come in and solidify himself early on, especially if he's performing at a high level. Even when Godwin comes back, I don't think they're taking him off the field.
It'll be really hard to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they can play 3 wide receivers anyways, and when Godwin does come back, he's not going to be at full strength probably till like the middle of the season. And with the type of injury that he had to, like, I don't know what his reports are of him coming out of camp, but I just feel like it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him. And I'm like, for what it's worth, I am rooting for Chris Godwin. Like, I had him on my team last year, and you saw the
Yeah, all
consummate
those fantasy players.
professional that this man was even after that injury. Like, you saw him on the stretch, and he was like, all right, let's go back to work. It's like, you know what? This guy just lost the whole season. He's already thinking about next year. Like, you got
He
to give
was
props to that.
WR3 before
Dude,
his injury, I believe.
Killing it last year.
Yeah.
He was murdering it last year.
I have to.
Yeah.
That wide receiver core is so well built. Like, I
Yeah.
think it might be one of the best in the league. Like, and we didn't talk about McMillan, but he was so good. He was so good. It was weird that they even drafted Egbuka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was confused by that pick at first.
But
And
now
now
it
they
makes
look
sense.
like geniuses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
now.
good.
So are we still too low on Baker Mayfield with all those wide receivers? We're going to keep it rolling. We're going to keep on. And finally, we would be remiss if we wouldn't talk about Mr. Cade Otton. I think he's just a streamer tight end right now. We every single time we do a division preview, we talk about like the top 3, top 4 tight ends, and everybody else after that is just a streamer. So I think it's the same thing with Cade. If ever there are injuries that happen to the majority, probably in this case, I think all the wide receivers, then Mr. Otton won't necessarily be getting that much production. Mind you, last year he did have quite a few games where he put up some serious numbers when that entire room was out, but probably the same thing in for this year as well.
Yeah, he had a good stretch of games from it was week 3 to 9 where he was just producing at a high level, and it was mainly because injuries to the people around him.
Yeah, his production really popped off when Godwin got hurt because they were playing, I guess, the similar role in that sense. And then McMillan came in, but it was all the same. Another one of the streamers within the tight end category. But we're gonna move on to the Atlanta Falcons, and we're gonna talk about a very, very interesting tight end at some point. And he's actually Eli. You don't know this, but he's Roger's favorite player to ever grace the football field. But we're gonna get into that later on. So just a quick
Tony
2024
Gonzalez.
recap. That's what Tony Gonzalez, exactly. Yes,
I
the
Don't forget that.
retired tight end for the Falcons.
Mhm.
Finished 8-9 last year. Bijan Robinson was RB3 overall. 365 touches, second most in the NFL. Offense leaned heavily on him. And, the Kirk Cousin experiment being what it is right now, obviously a failed experiment at that. And, at the time last year when they drafted Michael Penix Jr., everyone thought that was the craziest, most ridiculous, stupidest move that could have been done by a team that just gave all that money to Kirk Cousins. And it looks like we all ate crow because clearly they knew what they were doing, and maybe they didn't have as much faith in Kirk Cousins as everyone thought they did. But now Michael Penix is clearly going to be the guy for this year. So, the majority of their changes happened on defense. In particular, they finally drafted some defensive ends because Atlanta has been, before these ones, the last defensive ends they drafted were like almost a decade ago. So they drafted Jalon Walker and James Pierce Jr. in the first round. So obviously the biggest name here that we have to really discuss as to how it's going to play out in 2025 is Michael Penix Jr. And he played a few games last year where he started. I think it was the last 3 games of the season. Started off a little bit rough, but then you can see him get much more comfortable pushing the ball downfield, really opening up the playbook. So right now, I think his ADP or his quarterback 24. I mean, there's big arm, ton of talent. Like I said, he should be able to push the ball downfield, and he looks like he's about to have a really good rapport with Kyle Pitts as well. But mind you, I feel like every quarterback says that whenever they play for Atlanta, so as yet to be seen. Nacc, we're going to start off with you. Michael Penix Jr. at QB 24. Do you see him as your QB 2 or in your Superflex spot next year? And do you feel comfortable about that?
Yeah, this one's tough. I think he's ranked perfectly, to be honest. 24-25 is kind of along the lines where I would be snagging him. I don't know if I'm comfortable right off the bat as a obviously we start two QBs. I'm not sure if I'm right off the bat comfortable every week in, week out. It was a small sample size. Again, nothing on tape for defensive coordinators to kind of scheme around and kind of see the player he is. We kind of still don't know what type of player he's going to be in the NFL because we haven't seen that much of him. So that's where my head goes. I like to try to pick more towards the uh, having more seasons, more veteran type guys, more guys that have been there, done that kind of thing. You've seen 2 or 3 years of what they've got, especially in those valuable starting positions. So for me, I'm very intriguing player in 2025 or 2026, I guess 2025, 2026. Very intriguing player for me. Really, I'm excited to see what that offense looks like. But I think he's perfectly rated at that 24, 25 spot.
Eli, what do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't rank him any higher or lower. I do like the. Yeah, I am very intrigued by him this year. I think if you end up in a position in your draft where maybe a run on quarterbacks go and you're just, you're quote unquote, stuck with him, I think you're going to be fine. Like it's not, going to be comfortable going into the season, like just looking at him on your roster just because of the small sample size. But I think he is going to adapt. Basically going into his rookie year, just had 3 games last year. We saw last year with Bo Nix, took him time to acclimate to the NFL. But this is a guy who passed for over 4,600 yards in college, his last 2 years in Washington, 30 plus passing touchdowns. a full training camp as the QB1. I think he's going to be fine.
Go for it, Raj. I know you want to talk about this, man. I know you love it.
No. I think everyone said everything that made sense. It's gonna be bombs away for this guy. It's outside the numbers. It's gonna be not high completion percentage. It's gonna be like his last game that that was probably his best one against Carolina. He went from 5 to 8 air yards per attempt. That's what you're gonna see, especially with the type of talent, with the type of wide receivers, with London and Pitts and I think Mooney's injured. But it's going to be bombs away. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be very volatile. For me, I think more along the lines of what Nacc said, I'm more inclined to have maybe a veteran at QB2. And if I could get him at a QB3 flyer and he has high upside, I will eventually move him to QB2. But a little high for me I wouldn't be super comfortable with him being my QB2.
Considering the other quarterbacks are going in that spot, like safe from Matthew Stafford, just because we don't know what's going on with the back situation, but he would be the perfect QB2 in my opinion. Like I don't know, I kind of like the upside quite a bit, and I feel like as a QB2, like assuming that your first quarterback is the set it and forget it guy that's going to get, like, let's say you take one of the top 5 or top 6 guys, right? You can roll the dice a little bit with your QB2 and get something a little more volatile with that upside. I know in Nacc that didn't work out for you last year with Anthony Richardson, but I mean, like from a real quarterback perspective here, like Michael Penix Jr. is super interesting, and the offensive weapons that are around him. We didn't even talk about Darnell Mooney, who had like a resurgence last year on that team. So I just feel like that QB24, like I can definitely see him outperforming that ADP. And from the other crop of quarterbacks that are in that area, I like his upside a little bit more.
Well, to that point, right? Like Tua is currently ranked at QB 21. I would much rather go with Michael Penix Jr., who has a higher chance to actually break out way more than what what Tua is going to be. You know what?
Exactly.
You kind of know what Matthew Stafford's going to be too, because they're a run heavy offense nowadays, and you kind of know what maybe we don't know what Sam Darnold is, but I think we're all kind of concerned whether or not he's going to, without Kevin O'Connell, he's going to be able to do the same thing. But I think to your point, it's there's a lot of reward if Michael Penix Jr. breaks out,
and maybe not as much risk as might be perceived, I think.
Yeah.
And another guy who's going to have quite a bit of reward, in my opinion at least, he's going as my RB1, is Bijan Robinson. I know there might be a bit of a usage red flag, just for he had 360 some odd touches, and there is a bit of that perception, let's call it, with 350 plus touches the previous year. There's a bit of a dip the following year. I don't know. I don't really buy that necessarily. I did a little bit of a research on that just to see exactly how consistent that is, and in some cases it is, in some cases it isn't. And I just feel like Bijan Robinson is going to buck that trend if it really is a trend. You really saw him come into the offense. You really saw him play like that 8th overall pick that you expect him to play as. Excuse me. So I don't know. I'm fully invested in Bijan Robinson this year. Nothing against Jahmyr Gibbs. If I end up with Jahmyr Gibbs instead of Bijan, like I won't be upset. Same thing with Saquon. If you had to ask me today, though, who do I think is going to finish as RB1 overall? In my opinion, I think it's going to be Bijan Robinson.
I'm coming more around to the Bijan Robinson. Sports Illustrated said they have basically, by looking at the schedules, they have the number one easiest schedule, RB running back schedule in fantasy for 2025. And the Lions did lose Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler, so they did lose 2 offensive linemen. They did lose Ben Johnson, obviously, TBD on how much impact that will have. But I think Penix will help create more running lanes because they're gonna throw it deep.
Yeah, look, it's Bijan Robinson. Like I said, the top 3 backs in this fantasy, like you're not missing on any of them. Like there's not really much to say on this guy. You're getting an absolute superstar, and whether he finishes 1, 2, or 3, it's not going to be by 3 by 50 points. It'll be 5 to 10 point difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about Bijan either. Just turned 23 in January. Less tread on the tires. He's around that peak age for running backs, so I think he's going to be just fine.
Now,
I like the easy ones.
Sorry, go ahead, Nacc. What was that?
I like the easy ones.
Yeah, this was. We're just gonna keep it rolling here. Now, is Drake London going to be in one of the easy ones as well? Right now, going as wide receiver 9. Last year, he finished as wide receiver 5 in a PPR. So, are we a little bit too low on Drake London? As like we're talking about, is he ever going to break out? Didn't we see him break out last year, finishing as wide receiver 5?
The problem with wide receiver 5, like thinking in my mind, like, look, I think he's perfectly ranked again. He's number 9. I don't think any of us here are going to take Drake London over Brian Thomas, Nico Collins, Puka Nakua, AJ Brown, Malik Neighbors, Jefferson, Lamb, and Chase. Like, is there really one that you're going to take over Drake London?
Maybe Puka.
Puka?
Yeah, maybe Puka just because of the Stafford
The Stafford
issue.
issues?
But I get your point.
Maybe
though.
even Nico, in my opinion. But that's
That
putting
hurts.
him up at wide receiver 7. So
Yeah, like we're splitting hairs here, and I agree with the Nico part too because the injury concern is always going to be an injury concern for me when it comes to Nico. But I like Drake London to me, man. I think he's pretty much there as a set it forget wide receiver 1 now.
yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with him if you're picking him.
It's a small sample size, but in the 3 starts that Penix had, his points per game jumped from 15.1 points per game with Kirk Cousins to 23 points per game with Penix. And he had a 39% target share with him and a 45% first read rate.
And that also takes into account the only 2 good games that Kirk Cousins had where he threw for 12 touchdowns versus the Bucs.
Great point.
So I don't know. I think Drake London's going to go as a low end wide receiver 1 and finish off the year as a mid tier to top end wide receiver 1. I think. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all.
I've told Nacc and Fab this. Like stylistically, he's not my favorite wide receiver. Like he's not like fluid. He's more like a big guy, like catch radius guy. But it works. And I think maybe that's why the perception of him is a little bit lower than like a Malik Neighbors and a Brian Thomas Jr. and even like a Nico Collins.
Yeah, not a super flashy type of dude, but he gets it done.
Yeah.
And Darnell Mooney too, like vertical threat, definitely late round sleeper. I know last year he surprised a lot of people, myself included. Going right now is wide receiver 49 in a pretty decent spot around guys like Jaden Reed, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Golden, who's probably the only guy I would consider over him, Rashid Shaheed, and also Emeka Egbuka not too far behind. But Darnell Mooney does actually have a lot of value at that wide receiver 49 spot. So there's definitely a lot of quality depth that you can have later on taking a part in this offense because you figure Michael Penix, like you said, Roger, right? Like he's going to push the ball downfield. His average air yards per throw, whatever that stat that you threw out there, has been increasing every single game. So obviously that just feeds into Darnell Mooney too. But there is one player that we have to have a conversation about. Mr. Kyle Pitts.
Say his
He is
name, Rog.
athletic, but he has a low floor. And after 3 down years, how much are we trusting Kyle Pitts? And I just want to preface, he's doubled his touchdown output every single year since he came into the NFL. He went from 1 to 2 to 4. I think it's important to mention that he's been doubling his touchdown output. I would listen. I think tight end 19 taking a flyer on Kyle Pitts. I think this is the year it pays off. If you want to record this and bring it back to me next year, and I'm going to say the same thing over again, go right ahead. But I don't know. I'm willing to take a chance on Kyle Pitts. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but that's how I
tight
feel.
End 19, like.
Well, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
right?
your second one, right?
Yeah, why not?
Realistically, that's your second tight end on your team. Like, for sure, I'll take a shot at second tight end on my team. Am I putting him in week 1 as the starter? No. Fool me once, that old saying, but
In this case, it's fool me 4 times, but yeah.
But tight end 19, like,
I mean,
I'll eat that. I'll take that every day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any harm in taking him at tight end 19. If he was going, kind of where he had been going last few years, inside the top 10 of tight ends, I'd be saying no. But at tight end 19, you already solidified your tight end 1 why not take a chance on him, stash him on your bench? If he doesn't pan out, he ends up like some of the other guys that you draft at the later end of your round or your draft, and then just ends up on the waiver wire. So I don't have a problem with taking a shot on him.
I
Yeah.
can't wait for Rod. He's been making.
I didn't prepare
faces,
anything
shaking.
about Kyle Pitts, honestly. Like, I actually agree with you guys. The biggest reason why the biggest reason why I like him this year, he became Kyle Pitts Senior. He added a senior to his last
Oh
name.
my god! So he's matured, is what you're saying?
He's matured, exactly. Remember when Steve Smith became Steve Smith Senior?
Yep.
Yeah, what he stopped.
He became an unk.
He became an.
So that's Rogers tight end one this year. Book it, everybody.
I had Kyle Pitts, I think, like 2-3 straight years.
You did.
18, 19, it's not a bad idea. That's all I'll say. I have nothing else to say about Kyle Pitts.
He's going into his 4th year, right, in the NFL. This is his year number 4.
So he's supposed to score 8 touchdowns this year?
No, that's not where I was going, but thank you. Thank you for putting that on the universe. I'm just saying the guy's 24 years old. He's going into his 4th year. Like, he's young. And he's already had a lot of football put into him. You know what I mean? So I think this is like a very interesting year for Kyle Pitts. I don't know. I just like the fact that like you talk about new quarterbacks coming in, and the feeling around camp is that they want to get him more involved. So we'll see. I suppose we'll see.
That's every year.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like I'm just it's like I'm hitting repeat.
Rerun. Yeah.
If you take the episode last year, we'll recap the Atlanta Falcons. I think I was high on Kyle Pitts then too because of Kirk Cousins, and look how fantastic that turned out for everybody.
He doubled his touchdown input.
Thank you. Nacc, say it louder for the people in the back. So those are your Atlanta Falcons. We're gonna keep this train rolling right now with the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Carolina Panthers are a very, very, very interesting team. 2024 recap. So they finished 5-12. Bryce Young flashed down the stretch. He was QB6 from weeks 12 to 18. So him being benched was actually a great move by Canales. So clearly he knows what he's doing. That's why he is the head coach. You have the emergence of our Canadian boy, Chuba Hubbard, as a borderline high-end RB2. Adam Thielen is still awesome, but he's showing a little bit more for his age as well. But they drafted standout wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan, drafted as wide receiver 1, 8th overall in the 2025 NFL draft. They signed Rico Dowdle for running back depth, and obviously they extended Chuba Hubbard as well. So I think it's important to note that Bryce Young looked like a completely transformed quarterback towards the end of the season, where from those weeks 12 to 18, he won 11 touchdowns, 3 INTs. He was putting up pretty decent rushing numbers too, and also able to put together 5 rushing touchdowns as well. So we might not be looking at the same Bryce Young this year that started last year. And right now he's going at quarterback 23. He has a new shiny weapon in Tetairoa McMillan. And we already saw what type of connection they have. And it was that back shoulder throw that happened in the preseason game. That was just, it was beautiful to watch. And you tell yourself, like, I didn't know Bryce Young was capable of those throws. And I guess now the fact that he has a big body wide receiver 1, like that your typical X wide receiver like McMillan, maybe this is all that he was missing. So is Bryce Young going to break out? Is he going to finish as a top 15 quarterback? Right now going as quarterback 23. Eli?
I think so. I really like Bryce Young this year. I mean, like we talked about with Michael Penix, are you comfortable with him as your starting quarterback going into the season? Probably not. But definitely somebody to take a flyer on. You mentioned after the bye week from week 12 to 18, he was QB6. And then that has just translated over into the preseason with week 1, looking very in control, poised in the pocket, made some nice throws. So I'm really excited to see what Bryce Young can do.
Yeah, look, I think you said it right. Yeah, as your QB1, I'm not comfortable to say that he's going to be your QB1 for the season. But in a 2 quarterback league, I think I'm very comfortable slotting Bryce Young in there as of week 1 to be your QB2 in 2 QB and Superflex leagues. I think the emergence of Xavier Legette, who we'll talk about later, and we said that they drafted McMillan. McMillan's looked really really good in camp. Looks like a solid wide receiver one. So I think that's just going to continue to help him grow as a player. And I think we're looking at a solid season incoming for Bryce Young.
I think what gives me optimism is how we played against KC. They almost won that game. They lost by 3 points, and he played really well, or pretty decently well against Philadelphia. That game they lost just by a touchdown. They didn't blow out they weren't crazy looking stats, but he kept the team in it, and he almost won the game at the end. And I think for him, the key has always been playing with confidence, playing like how he played at Alabama, not just staying in the middle of the pocket, because he's a shorter QB, so he has to keep playing on the outside, and I think that will benefit how him and Tetairoa McMillan play. Whereas if he just stays in the middle of the field with his height, he's not going to see that well. He's going to get into sacks. I think if he keeps playing with confidence and keeps going out of the pocket and out of structure like he did at Bama, to me the upside is QB2. I see him as a QB3 now, but I think he has more upside as a QB2 than Michael Penix Jr.
I agree with that.
It's hard to disagree. I like Bryce Young a lot. I agree with everybody on the little panel over here. I think QB23 right now is probably an accurate ADP for him, but he could finish in the top 20. But when I say top 20, we're talking like 18 or 19 or 20, right? Like that's where that would make more sense for me, just because the guys that are in front of him, I have more hope for.
Even Tua?
I didn't say all the guys. I said some of the guys.
We said the guys.
Tua is I think only the exception, because I do have higher hopes with JJ McCarthy, CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence ish.
I don't know why JJ McCarthy is going so high.
Yeah, McCarthy. The fact that McCarthy is going higher than Bryce Young and Michael Penix Jr. bothers me.
Yes,
I take offense to that.
Yes,
I'm offended for Michael Penix Jr. and Bryce Young.
It's like Anthony Richardson going 5th last year.
Off
took the
2.5 games of a body of work. And we all made that mistake. My God, we all made that mistake. Anthony Richardson. When will you learn how to throw a football? We're going to move on to the running backs right now. So I was a little bit higher on Chuba Hubbard after he signed that contract. And then I'm a little bit less high on him because the Carolina Panthers signed Rico Dowdle, who, by all accounts, played very well for the Dallas Cowboys last year. And Dallas Cowboys doing what Dallas Cowboys do, they did not re-sign him and instead decided to re-sign insert recycled running back here name. So now Rico Dowdle is playing for the Panthers. And you know what? I think this is more of a RB1A, RB1B type scenario. Right now, Chuba's going as RB17. That seems right to me, even a little bit too high. I have a little bit more trepidations than I did yesterday, put it that way, on Chuba Hubbard. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that even though they paid him and you kind of want to follow the money when it comes to running backs, like James Cook today, he got his bag, good for him. But I don't know. I feel like now that running back room got a little bit more crowded, and you kind of wonder that it's going to be more of a committee and much more of a split backfield than it was before. Eli, I want to get your take on the potential usage that we might see from this running back room right now.
Yeah, I don't view Rico Dowdle as a 1B type of guy. I think he's more of just a handcuff. I just don't see how the Panthers can take Chuba Hubbard off the field with how effective he was last year. He was near the top of the league in yards after contact per attempt, missed tackles forced per attempt, and explosive run percentage. And then on top of that, he was also their goal line back, seeing 80% of the carries from inside the 5-yard line. So he has that touchdown upside as their goal line back. I actually think RB17 is a little low for him. I'm actually higher on him. I would even take him over the recently re-signed James Cook. And then I also have questions about Breece Hall in New York and his usage. So I would take him over Breece Hall as well.
Braylon Allen scares me. If I already drafted and Brees Hall was on my team and I see what Braylon Allen's doing in camp right now and even the preseason games, like I am very concerned if I'm a Brees Hall owner. Yes, I
I
agree.
want to give the exact same answer as Eli, so I'll let you go next, Raj. And whatever he just said is exactly my thoughts on Chuba
So
Hubbard.
hold
So
on a
I
second,
have
Nike. You're not
nothing
going to
to
off the
add.
hook then. So Chuba right now. So would you take him over James Cook?
Yeah,
Okay. Omarion Hampton,
yeah,
fair. Kenneth Walker, yeah, that's fair. I would do that.
yeah,
Same thing. Brees Hall, yeah. So where would
yeah.
it stop for you? Like Alvin
Like
Kamara, Kyron
Kamara would
Williams?
be borderline because him too. Like he's got a lot of miles on those threads, man. Like, and that team's gonna be very, very awful. Like, give me give me Chuba Hubbard, man. I'm really high on the Chuba Hubbard stocks this year, 100%. Like I said, I don't even have anything to add because you really deep dove on that, and that was perfectly said. I'm high on Hubbard for sure.
Roger, you equally as high?
I am now. I agree with Nacc on Eli's assessment of
Yeah, agree
Hubbard.
with Eli. Don't agree with Knack. Knack didn't say anything.
Yeah. Um, there's proof of concept of this happening before too, where remember they brought in Miles Sanders a few years ago when Hubbard was there. They
True.
drafted Jonathan Brooks,
You're right.
and Jonathan Brooks unfortunately tore his ACL. He came in with a torn ACL. He left with a torn ACL,
Poor guy, man.
and now Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle, very similar profile to Miles Sanders, not necessarily in terms of how they played, but they also came from a 1,000-yard situation, if I'm not mistaken.
Very true.
So I think he could do it again because he's a very good player. Finished RB13 last year, super tough, very productive. So I've actually got convinced that in that mid low kind of end RB2 range that makes a lot of sense, and I do like him over some of the aforementioned guys that we just mentioned. Like I'm actually very concerned about James Cook as someone who benefited from him last year. The touchdown, I think there's a huge touchdown regression coming with him.
Yeah,
Big time.
yeah. That's like the worst best kept secret, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you can
But
definitely assume
anyone
there's
who
going to be
has
touchdown
18
regression.
TDs,
Sorry, what was that, Nick?
I said anyone who has 18 TDs the previous year is you're going to have a regression on TDs the following season.
100%, 100%. But just the sidebar, James Cook right now is going as running back 17. I think that's fairly priced, maybe a little bit too much, but not by a lot. But anyways, yeah, I don't disagree with you guys. I'm not gonna bang the drum over here and say that RB17 is too low or too high or whatever the case may be. Like we're all pretty much on the same page, and all the guys that I mentioned before, I would definitely take Hubbard before the likes of Hampton, Kenneth Walker III, unfortunately Brees Hall as well. I was really hoping that he would break out at some point, but I guess we're gonna have to wait at least one more year. The wide receiver room, though, that we're going to move into right now, a little bit more interesting, I find. So obviously McMillan, we spoke about him before. He, in my opinion, is going to be the alpha in that room. You're going to and we saw last year a lot of rookie wide receivers really blew up. Obviously, Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors and a bunch of other guys too. And so, are we expecting McMillan to follow within suit like that? Are we expecting him right now? He's going as a wide receiver 27. That's like low end. I was going to say mid tier wide receiver three. About like, are we comfortable putting him in as an every week starter already?
In 3 wide receiver leagues, yes, I think so. If you're more in a 2 wide receiver league, one flex spot, a little hesitant from the jump. I think he does adapt to the NFL though, and eventually does become a pretty good starter for your team. Being Bryce Young's wide receiver one there, big guy, can go up and get the ball, going to be a red zone threat. I think he's a great pick there at wide receiver 27, 28.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't have him classified as my wide receiver two, but I'd be comfortable even starting the season week one. We do play 3 wide receiver starts, so I'd be more than happy to have him as my wide receiver three to start the year. I don't know. I feel like there's a shift in culture in Carolina. I think they've got some right pieces in place, and I think that was a great pick, and I think it suits the offense perfectly.
wide receiver 20s is better than what people had Marvin Harrison Jr. last year, which was at like what wide receiver 5, 6, or 7. So I think
It
it's
was going
been
top 10, Marvin Harrison Jr.
the expectations have been tempered, and I think this makes a lot more sense. And I feel like McMillan's the vibe around him has improved. The draft buzz wasn't great. There was I don't watch film stuff. There was some worry about his heart at Arizona, the way he played. So I feel he's rehabilitated himself well, whether it's in interviews or at camp. So I'm actually I'd be quite comfortable as well where he's at.
Yeah, and if you look at the other guys that are going around that spot, so he actually some Fantasy Pros ADP PPR, he's actually been jumped up from wide receiver 27 to 24. So he's like slotted right behind Devontae Smith, which I actually would take McMillan over Devontae Smith.
Yeah,
just for the sake of the offense and the attention he's going to get. McMillan, I'm referring to.
I agree.
And also, he's going 2 spots behind Cortland Sutton, which again, you can have an argument that McMillan is going to have a better fantasy season. Like, and I like Cortland Sutton a lot, but same argument applies. The only guy in that spot right now, there's also Zay Flowers and Rashee Rice that I would consider taking over McMillan is Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
And because he's been looking fantastic in camp so far, and you have Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball. So I'm on board. I actually thought at one point wide receiver 27 was a little bit too rich, but you know what? I don't think it's rich enough. I think there is a lot of fire to the smoke over here when it comes to Tetairoa McMillan. I know, Nacc, you want him on your team for obvious reasons, but some other wide receivers that we do have to touch on real quick, like Jalen Coker. He was interesting last year. I think he could be a nice late round flyer. We got the route running god that is Hunter Renfrow, seemingly out of retirement or Uber car or whatever he was doing before. Now he's back. Got to give him props. Adam Thielen for that as a steady veteran in that locker room. I think it's been very helpful. And then we got you guy there that is able to get. What's going on? I was able to get, man. He's going out with wide receiver 4, 5, 6. He's like going to be a bit of an afterthought, I feel, right now. Like I think he was drafted to be what Tetairoa McMillan is. So it's going to be an interesting camp to look for. But right now, I feel like the only probable draftable wide receiver on this team is McMillan. I know Adam Thielen, I think it was not last year, the year before. He started off the season super hot in Bryce Young's rookie season, where he was like wide receiver 10 to start the year.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Yeah, so something to keep an eye on, but definitely McMillan is the guy you want to have. And then we're going to jump into the tight ends just to say the tight end's name, Hayden Hurst, who, again, streamer, if that.
I actually think Jatavion Sanders is going to be the starting tight end there. Jatavion Sanders,
he looked good.
He's been impressing during camp. And Tommy Tremble got injured at the start of camp, which opened the door for him. I think he's going to be a sleeper tight end.
I just want to say, just don't sleep on Thielen. Like, if you look at his game log, even after like the injury, he had like an 8 for 99 game, a 9 for 102 game, a 5 for 110 game. Like, the guy's just a certified pro. Like, he gets open like there's nothing, and I think he's always going to be drafted, and I think he's always a good candidate to have quite a few decent games.
That's a good call.
Final 2 round, someone will grab him.
Especially in PPR. I think that's a good call, Roger. I think we got to put more respect on Adam Thielen's name. I know Nick is probably listening to this podcast right now, banging his desk, getting upset about it. But yeah, I agree 100%. And Eli, Jatavion Sanders, great call out right now. Definitely going way beyond any point in the draft that anyone's thinking about. But it could be another name to watch too, as camp continues to roll along and preseason is getting a little bit older. We might see him more in the mix a little bit more. So those are the Carolina Panthers. Now we're going to move into the last team. So we saved the least for last, I think, here with the New Orleans Saints. This is a fantasy wasteland. Anyways, we're going to jump into it anyways because we have an obligation to our fans that we speak about all things fantasy football related. And New Orleans Saints are a football team that finished 5-12 last year. So Derek Carr has retired. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed has what was that, Roger?
I just said thank God.
Yeah, I
for
mean,
fantasy purposes, thank God.
Yeah.
fantasy purposes, thank God. Yeah, he was Mr. 2 passing touchdown every single game, and then the
Yes.
games that I play against him, he throws like 3 or 4 touchdowns, and it's like, well, when you're on my team and I'm starting you, you can't throw more than 2. And it's just one of those things that, and if you look at his stat log, and I'm ranting here and I apologize, like there was like, I think it was 24 games straight where it's just like 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns passes, and then it's just anyway.
Just the worst QB against the blitz ever. Like I pour one out for Derek Carr.
Very
Pour one
indecisive.
out for Derek Carr. He was an NFL quarterback and played well for a period of time, and he was part of a conversation that involved him being the MVP, which I'll never understand why, but he did it, and he can talk about it and I can't. So Derek Carr has retired. Happy trails,
Actually,
Derek
Eli's
Carr.
related to Derek Carr.
Actually,
No, absolutely not.
I got scared for a second. I apologize. We love Derek
No,
Carr.
no.
Yeah, I'll go pull out his jersey. Happy trails, Derek Carr. Wish you the best. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. I mean, they're dealing with their own injuries. Like we saw Olave get concussed like every other game last year, and I hate to even think about it. Alvin Kamara is still Alvin Kamara, but this is an old team turning into a new page. And who is going to be reading that book? We got Kellen Moore, who's been named the head coach, who I feel like he's like the village bicycle. He's been passed around at every single NFL team so far. He's either been the offensive coordinator or passing game coordinator from like some pretty noteworthy teams. They had the Eagles, the Cowboys, I think even the Rams.
Chargers.
Chargers,
yeah.
thank you. Yeah, so I mean, he's accumulated. I said that as a joke, right? I mean, I think he's good. I think he's gonna be a very good head coach for the Saints and should help the young quarterbacks get into the NFL rhythm. They also added rookie running back Devin Neal, and Brandon Cooks joins this wide receiver group. So another journeyman wide receiver that's been switching teams and going back to his old stomping ground.
Home.
I mean, Kellen Moore offensive have finished as top 10 in scoring in 4 of the last 6 seasons. I think it's going to be 4 of the last 7 seasons when this season is over, quite frankly. And it's nothing against Kellen Moore, but more because of the offense that he's going to have to work with. So they drafted Tyler Shuck, which I still don't understand how that's how you pronounce his name when it's written that way. So Tyler Shuck as a 4th round quarterback, I want to say, or in the 3rd round.
Second
round.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think,
40th pick.
yeah, it was a pretty high pick.
2nd round quarterback. Right now going as QB 32, but there still seems to be a bit of a quarterback battle with Spencer Rattler, who was drafted the previous year. Apparently, Spencer Rattler has looked better in camp. So, I mean, listen, both these guys, one of them is going as quarterback 32 in ADP, one's going as quarterback 37. I don't think we have to spend too much time on this. I mean, they're really only going to have a little bit of QB2 Superflex upside in scenarios where matchup is right, streaming options are right. You need to start a warm body. I mean, I kind of like Tyler Shuck a little bit more than Rattler, but apparently Rattler's been looking a lot better in camp. So I guess it remains to be seen. Roger, I don't know if you want to jump in on this. I know you do have a soft spot for the New Orleans Saints quarterbacks.
I don't, but Shuck had a 54-yard touchdown, looked really good against the Chargers. He was 15 of 22 for 165 yards in the preseason game this past weekend. So him and Rattler both have big arms. So I think what I like about Kellen Moore is that he doesn't have a specific offensive style. He's adapted to every single offense that he's been in, whether it's with Herbert, whether it was with Dak Prescott, whether we just saw it with Jalen Hurts. He is not the type that says this is my way or the highway. So I could see this being like a big shot offense with Shaheed, who's blazing fast, Olave, who's blazing fast, Cooks, who used to be blazing fast, but probably still have some speed left. So it'll be interesting to see.
I want nothing to do with this QB room.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, for sure. Of course.
There's zero upside for me. QB4s across the board here. These are guys that you pick up if the quarterback market in 2 QB leagues really dries out, but there's really nothing to be overly optimistic with in this group.
The only thing is just like I agree with you, Nacc. Just there's a decent amount of talent on like across the roster. That's
true.
That's the only like saving grace for one of these two. Like you have to hope that Shuck wins it because Rattler didn't look good at all in his time. But
mean,
yeah, like I agree
even
with
if
you.
even if
It's
Shuck
hard to
wins it,
trust.
like he'll have more interceptions than touchdowns.
Probably. I mean, I agree with Roger in the sense that you like they drafted Shuck with Rattler on the roster. That tells you everything you need to know. Like at some point in the future, Shuck is going to be the starting quarterback. Maybe Rattler starts off just because he knows the offense. I think there could be some very low end QB2 upside here, but we're talking
Yuck.
very low end. But it's still something to monitor because, listen, we can't tell the future. Maybe Shuck is the next Patrick Mahomes. Probably not. We're Eli, you have anything to add, or want to move on to running backs?
No, we can move on. I don't think you're touching either one of those guys. Yeah.
But we are going to be most likely touching Alvin Kamara, who seems like every single year gets counted out. Every single year is going as ADP double digits for running backs. He's always going as running back 12, 13, 14, and then he ends the season as a top 5 guy. So right now, Alvin Kamara, again, going as RB14. Is this the year he falls off and stays around that ADP, or are we going to start reaching for him a little bit higher? I mean, we already had a conversation a little bit about running backs, where a lot of guys are going. How are we feeling about Alvin Kamara again?
It's more the offense as a whole that kind of scares me, right? Like, are they going to be on the field enough? Are they going to be? Is he's going to have enough playing time? Are they going to come at a point of the season where there's other guys that are going to need to prove themselves because they're out of any type of contention? Like, you know what happens when teams start to tank and all that. So, man, this one's a really tough one because when you're going to get to that point and Alvin Kamara is that first guy there, you're going to see some guys underneath and you're going to probably going to take him, but I don't know. And I definitely have a sweet spot for Alvin Kamara. He's won me a couple of championships. So, um, look, he's nestled in the top 20, RB 14, 15, 16. That's, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable there, but I'm not as high as I was in previous years.
Yeah, I think you hit on it. Like, how effective is this offense going to be? But at the same time, it wasn't very effective last year, and he still
Thank
produced.
you.
So I think you're fine taking him where he's going. Um, he is getting older, so you do have to worry about injury concern. Um, finished the 2024 season injured, so that's really the only concern that I have with him is that age. But he's proven to produce for your fantasy teams.
So just to make things more difficult, when Alvin Kamara shows up on your draft board, you're not sure if you should draft him or not. Last year, he missed 3 games, still finished as RB9, and only had 1 game under 10 fantasy points in PPR. And that was still 8.4 points. He missed 3 games, and he finishes RB9 in a bad offense
It was the year before he had an off year,
because he was a little bit more injured, I believe. He
and
was
that's
dealing with
when
stuff even
everyone
throughout
kind
the
of,
season.
yeah.
But it's just, okay, fine. It might be a little bit inflated because he had that 44-point game in
Exactly.
week 2.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
don't
mean,
remind me of that one.
So I specifically remember a game where he had, I think it was against the Matt. I forgot who it was against. I don't know, but he had like 14 receptions for like 60 yards or some ridiculous
Oh yeah.
stupidity, and I lost. Yeah, like 20 points and for getting 60 total yards. Now they weren't rushing the ball, but they were just dump offs to him, getting 1 yard,
Yeah.
and like it's death by 1,000 cuts. But you know what? It's effective. Anyways, I won't. I don't know if I'm going to be as turned off as maybe some of you guys are with Alvin Kamara. I'm not reaching for him, obviously. RB14 is where I'm very safe to get him, but there are guys that I would look at. I would look at him over a lot of other guys around that spot. To be honest with you, though, I don't know, man. Like I'm like you can never count him on every single year. And right now he's going as RB13, and I think that's still not high enough. Wouldn't be surprised if he finishes top 10 this year. Wouldn't be surprised, but remains to be seen. Roger, how are you feeling on this?
Love the guy too. He's getting close to 2,000 career touches. It's the wear and tear is starting to. I think it's starting to add up. He hasn't played 16 games, or I guess 17 games, ever. Sorry, since 2017. He's missing a game every single year. To me, just knowing that is like, I can't stand when running back, like you're starting running back, the guy who you need as like a RB1, borderline RB2, has to miss games. He played 14 last year, 13 the year before, 15 the year before, 13 in 2021. I love the guy, but I might be out on that.
Yeah, I get that. And if you're out on him, you got to be at least looking at Devin Neal, right? The potential rookie stash, deeper stash within this draft, as who could spell and obviously provide that upside while Alvin Kamara is injured too, if he gets injured, obviously. The wide receiver is a little more interesting, though. I mean, Chris Olave, my God, did we have high hopes on him last year? And those hospital balls that were being thrown by Derek Carr just didn't. It gets me angry. Like right now, he's going as wide receiver 28, and this guy was looking like everything you expect a wide receiver 1 to be. And right now, he's also dealing with an ankle injury coming out of camp right now, so there's a lot of question marks with him. Rashid Shaheed as well. Obviously, Roger mentioned before, he is that speedster, but still a bit of a boomer bust speedster, where right now going as wide receiver 54. Then there's Brandon Cooks on there too. I mean, are we later on in the draft, like you're looking at maybe Chris Olave as your wide receiver 3 spot, but are you really going to be looking at him? Like, is this someone that you're going to be comfortable having on your team at the end of the draft?
I'm not. That QB situation there, just I don't like it. The whole offense in general. There's other guys going around him that are in better situations that I would rather have. So if Olave comes up, or if I'm on the clock and Olave's sitting there, I'm just passing over him.
Yeah, this is. I think he's top 5 on my do not draft board this upcoming season. I think they're naming a hospital wing after him as well this in the off season. So way too many missed games. Poor guy. You never want to see it, but he's an injury away from never playing again in the NFL. So it's not the type of risk I'm looking for my fantasy team. Definitely agree with you, Fab. We had high hopes on him last year. He looked really, really good in 2023. And it just may not be for him, and he may have to hang it up sooner rather than later. And I think what Eli alluded to as well, the QB situation, I don't like it. So I'm not drafting him.
Do you guys know who his QB was in 2022 when he had 72 catches and 1,000 yards?
It was Derek Carr, no?
Oh. Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton's better than the 2 QBs that they have on the
I wish he was his quarterback this year.
Yeah, exactly. Give me Andy Dalton now.
Yes.
2 years later, and I'll still take him over these 2 guys.
You're not wrong. 35-year-old Andy Dalton, you're not wrong.
I mean, when they benched Bryce Young last year, I mean,
he went off.
Excited. People were excited that Andy Dalton was the quarterback there in Carolina.
Yeah, and he went off for those, I think it was the first 2 games.
2-3 games.
He really went off, and then obviously he came back to being what he is.
Andy Dalton in this offense any day.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say I'm not really targeting any of the wide receivers. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me on that. I mean, this is just an offense to avoid apart from Alvin Kamara. Except maybe Juwan Johnson.
My boy.
Your boy, right? Now, this is really your boy. Like, we joke about Kyle Pitts being your boy, but, like, Roger has a poster of Juwan Johnson in his room, much to his wife's chagrin. But, like, he
has that Wolverine thing with the picture. That's Roger.
Where are you going with this Wolverine?
Before he goes to bed, he rubs his Juwan Johnson.
When he's looking at the picture, he's in his bed.
So why I'm optimistic, unfortunately, Taysom Hill tore his ACL late in the season. So who knows when he'll be back. And he finished strong. Look, it's the last 2 games we finished strong. 17 targets both games, 6 receptions for 66 yards, 6 receptions for 80 yards, week 17 and week 18. We all know that a tight end is a rookie QB's or second-year QB's best friend. I think this is the year for him to finally prove me wrong, and if it isn't, he'll be Kyle Pitts.
Wow, he's become a verb.
Yeah, I mean, there's. I get what you're saying. I don't disagree. There's a lot of other guys that will be much more interested in getting just because they play in a better offense, and I feel like this is one of those scenarios where like the talent is there, the target share is there, play calling is probably going to be there. The execution will not be there, and just for all the aforementioned things we said before. But it remains to be seen. But it's definitely a good name to keep on your radar because tight ends are a wasteland.
Yes.
Like apart from the top 6, 7, after that it gets very, very murky, and you're gonna need. And when I say you, I'm talking to you, the listeners. You guys are gonna need to know these names because they're gonna be streaming options out there from one week to another. Because I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people this year, more than ever, start streaming tight ends because there's so much flux and there's so much uncertainty, and even like we're just gonna take a quick sidebar for tight ends. Like after Bowers, McBride, Kittle, Hawkinson, it gets very, very murky. Like Kelsey, you don't know what you're gonna get. Laporta, up and down. Evan Ingram, new offense, even though he's supposed to be the Joker, but apparently they drafted the Joker in RJ Harvey. David Njoku, Cleveland, you can't trust anything in Cleveland. Mark Andrews balled out last year towards the end. Tucker Kraft is touchdown dependent. Jake Ferguson, now you have George Pickens coming in. Tyler Warren, you can't trust their quarterback, Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. So, yeah, it's going to be extremely important that, all these names are considered because you might be streaming them at some point. So, yeah, Juwan Johnson. Roger, you break out that poster this year.
I'm going to die on Chiga Kwankwo and Juwan Johnson Island.
Oh, my God.
By hook or by crook.
Okay, time to end.
Sure. We did Tennessee last week. So there we have
mentioned him.
And we mentioned him several
times. Those are my guys.
We know, Roger. We know. We get it. We get it.
Can't do it.
So are we done? NFC South Fantasy Football Preview. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's our episode. I think we just smashed it, but that's just my opinion. This is the first episode I hosted since I got back from vacation. So if I was rusty, you made it this far, so continue listening, I guess. But thank you very much, everyone, for paying attention, for listening, for coming on the show. Eli, Talkin Fantasy Football. Follow him on
Eli,
TikTok. Follow him on YouTube at Talkin FFB. Like, for real, your videos, very, very good stuff.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, like really, really good content coming out of there. So, guys, if you're on TikTok, if you're on YouTube, make sure you follow Eli. And at the same time, while you're at it, just follow us too. We're on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, obviously, and Twitter. I'm Fab. That's Roger. That's Nacc. We are the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. We're out. Peace out.
Eli, awesome job, man.
Great job, Eli. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Eli, good stuff, man. We're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna have you back on during the regular season.
Is he talking like that right now? Because I didn't hear what he said.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.
Peace out.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Eli, for coming on. Thank you.